What's up guys, CharleyPangus here. Welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your own custom badge design using Illustrator. Let's go and hop into Illustrator now and get started. Alright, so we're in Illustrator, we are ready to rock and roll. We're going to be creating the same badge design that I have here. So the goal for this design today is to use things that relate to you. So you're going to use your first and last name, you're going to put your occupation down here, whatever it is you do, and then we're going to be putting dreaming to be a successful whatever it is you want to dream to do. So I put YouTuber because my dream is to be a successful YouTuber. So you're going to put whatever it is that you dream to do right there, and then you're going to put the state or country you're from right here in the middle. Finally, we're also going to be putting the year we were born. I was born in 1991, so it's separated, 19 on the left, 91 on the right. We're going to be doing the exact same thing there. Obviously, you're going to put your own birthday, but you get the point now. This is going to be really fun, and by the end of this, you're going to have something that looks like this right here. We are not going to be doing the color one today, but as I said in the intro, if you guys want to see the color one, let me know and we will do some color on this, okay? So with all that being said, I want to create another artboard so I can create the fresh design on this blank artboard. So if you guys aren't familiar, you can create different artboards in Illustrator, and they basically act like literally different artboards. You can create art within that artboard, and you can center it around that artboard, which is really cool. So I have like 4 of them right here. Yeah, so I have 4 of them right here, and you can create as many as you want, really. I don't think there's a limit. And I'm using a 600 pixel by 600 pixel document, and you're probably asking yourself, why are you doing such a small document size? Well, this is a vector image, so you can resize it to anything you want, so there's no point in sizing your document up to like 15 inches by 15 inches. There's literally no point. I had a friend of mine tell me that, and I was like, wait a minute, you have a really good point. So I don't do that anymore. So anyway, 600 pixels by 600 pixels, and let's get this going. So we're using a 12-point stroke today for this design, and that's going to be consistent with the entire design, okay? We don't want to switch up the strokes because we want them to be consistent so it looks consistent, if that makes sense. It needs to look good, right? I'm basically just going to walk you through this design. So we're going to go ahead and go to the circle here, and we're just going to draw out a circle holding in shift. That way, I said draw out, but I meant drag out. You get the point. So we're going to drag out a circle, and we want to change that to a stroke. We just want that to be a black stroke, and again, we're going with a 12-point stroke here, just so we can keep that consistency. So we have a 12-point stroke. We're going to make sure everything's centered vertically and horizontally, which it is, so we are good. Now what I want to do is select it, and we can actually go up to copy, and then we can do paste in front. Now there's going to be a copy in front, which you can't see yet, but if we go to this right corner, you'll see these arrows appear. If you hold in Shift and Alt and drag down, it's going to evenly drag it down, okay? Proportionally drag it down. And that's what we want. So we need to copy like the same width as this one right here. Try to get as close as we can, which that looks pretty good. Next thing I want to do is create these ovals. So all I have to do that is just do Control V, since I already copied the other circle, and basically resize it like this. And we can actually center it to the artboard. And that's the cool thing about artboards. You can center things to it. So everything's nice and centered and it looks beautiful. So, and then also if I hold an Alt and drag down from the top, it's going to create that nice oval, and I can also recenter it again just to make sure. And then I could drag this to the right here, and then I can group all these just like this. And I do this a lot. I'll group things just to center them to the artboard. So I grouped both ovals, and then I centered it to the artboard, and that's what we want. We want it to look nice and centered, and it's looking great. The next thing I would like to do is lay down the last circle, because we are missing one inside, so I could just do paste in place since I already copied the last circle. We're literally just using the same circle over and over again, which is kind of cool because it saves us a lot of work. That's looking really good so far. Now what we need to do is add these little dividers where YouTube is right here, because that's basically dividing the bottom word up. It's just something I like to do. You don't even have to add those if you don't want to. It really depends on the style that you're going for, but that's the style I like. So we're going to go and section that off using this line tool, and I often use the line tool. I think it's a great tool. It's called the line segment tool. And then what we want to do is we just want to like click once right here. It doesn't matter what side. You can click and hold and then drag to wherever you want it. And I'm actually going to hold in space and move it around a little bit more. We're going to drag it to about right there. And that's looking good. As you guys can see, it's the same stroke width, and that's simply because Illustrator remembered what stroke width we've been using for this design. And that's why I love Illustrator so much. It really makes your workflow just seamless. It's too easy almost, you know? So now what I want to do is I want to duplicate this. So I'm going to hold an Alt and drag to the right. And it also needs to be flipped because it is facing the wrong direction. So we just right click, go to transform, and then reflect. And then you want to reflect it vertically. Okay, and you can also use the reflect tool. So before I actually center those to the artboard, what I want to do is I want to select both of them real quick, and I want to go up to this little document looking icon here, and I want to go to align to selection, and I just want to center those together versus doing it on the artboard, because if I did it on the artboard, here's what would happen. It would center it on the artboard, and I don't want that. So I'm going to align to selection just to make sure they're aligned with each other, or else things can look a little off. Then after that, we can go back to align to artboard. We can do Control G since they're still selected, and that groups them both together. And then we can center them to the artboard, which they are centered now. So we're looking good right there. And we're basically halfway there, guys. We're more than halfway there. I always like to add the frames first and then add everything else last, just because it works with my workflow better, if that makes sense. You might want to do text first and then lay all the frames around the text. But this I found is the best way. It's just easier to do it this way. So we just lay down the frames, and I always like to do that first because it makes everything else easier, like laying down the text and the object in the center and all that other stuff. So that's just my preference. You can definitely do this any order you want, but I definitely found this easier. So I want to start laying down some text now, some type. And I'm using a font called Classic for that. So if you guys want to look it up, it's spelled with a K. It's just Classic, and you guys can download that online. In order to create the nice arc we have on the text here, we're going to be creating some type paths. We're going to use the same objects we have to do that, and I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. So we're going to select this one right here on the inside, and we're going to actually go to Edit, Copy, and we're going to go to Paste in Front. And now that's going to be in front. You won't be able to see, but if I change the color, you'll see it. So as you can see, it is in the front. Then we want to go over to the left here and go to the Type on Path tool, Type on a Path tool. And we want to actually hover over the line that we just selected, or the shape that we just selected, which is a circle. And you're going to see this little wavy line appear. You just left click once, and it's going to actually put text around that path. Now what I want to do is type in my name, since we're putting our first and last name on the very top. If your name's really long, you can abbreviate it. It's totally up to you. So now the thing is, obviously the text is not in the right place. As you guys can see, there's this faint blue line, and if you hover over it, it has basically a line and an arrow up. And if you left click on that, you can actually drag that around the text path and put it all the way to the top like you want it. And then we can actually double click on the text and resize it. So now we need to resize it until we are happy with the sizing. So I chose 83 points for the top text, and it's also going to be for the bottom text, so we might have to change that later on depending on how everything's going to fit in here, but 83 seems to be fine. Now what I need to do is change the line height because it's hugging this inner circle, and I do not want that. So I need to go to my character palette here and then go to my line spacing all the way at the bottom left, and you can actually set the baseline shift here, and it's basically line height, but they call it baseline shift. And then you can actually just go up with that. So go up in the points and just kind of eye it and make sure it's centered. And this looks good, so I'm good with that. And so we have the top text already, and that was pretty easy, right? Really didn't take too much time. It's a little small, I think, because there's still so much space right here. But we're just going to play it by ear and see what happens to the bottom text, and we might even raise the text size a little bit. So we'll figure it out. What I want to do is I actually want to duplicate my name and use it for the bottom. So I'll show you how to do that. Go to Copy. Do paste in place. So again, once you paste it in place, it's going to be on the top. And if you guys change the color, you'll see that. So CharleyPangus, the duplicate copy, is on the top. Now we can actually take this middle line and basically drag it down. If it works, we can drag it down, and we need it to look just like this. So copy me on this, and then it will work every time, I promise. We want it to hug the inner circle here, but we want it to be readable. We don't want it to be upside down, and it's not upside down, so we're good. Now we can go back to the character palette and make sure the baseline shift is fixed, because right now it's at 17 like it was on the top, and it's being forced inside the circle. We don't want that. Keep messing with the baseline shift until it's centered between both those lines, the top and bottom line. And once it's centered, then you guys are done. I'm going to show you guys a little trick to change this letter spacing, because right now it is way too spaced out. So if you just select on the text once, hold in Alt and hit the left arrow key, you can change the letter spacing. So it's really, really easy. So as you can see, it looks much better now. The one thing I'm noticing is the font size needs to be increased. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase that. But first, I want to put graphic designer down here before we do that, just to see where we're at here. So I'm putting my occupation down here, and I can also change the letter spacing again. So again, I'm going to hold Alt and just go left with my arrow key, and that will change the letter spacing. And I'm going to change the font size a little bit. I think I'm going to go to like 90 with it. We'll see what 90 looks like. 90 is looking good, so we can do 90 for the top as well. So 90 is good for the top as well. And we do need to change that baseline shift because it looks like it's a little off. So we'll change that baseline shift for the bottom and top. Same thing, guys. We're just using those tools to our advantage, making everything easy on us. So yeah, that's looking really good, and we're using 90-point font. And that's basically it for that. Before I get into the dreaming to be a successful YouTuber text, I actually want to put the year I was born down because that's the easiest part. So we're going to actually go to our T tool, or you could just go over to the left here and hit your T tool. T on the keyboard is the easiest way to get to that. And then I'm going to type out 19. And what we want to do is actually zero out the letter spacing. So we need to go to the VA and just hit 0 and enter. And that will basically get rid of that spacing that we had. It'll put it at default, which is 0. And then what we want to do is duplicate it once and just do 91. So now we have 1991 and they're on their own text line, and that's what we want. And we need to just resize it a little bit and basically put it in place first and see if it looks good. That actually does look good. I got lucky. But usually if it doesn't look good, just keep resizing it until you are happy with it. Once you set the year you were born in those circles, you can actually do Control-Shift-O, and that will outline the text. And from there, we can actually center it to selection just to make sure it looks good with each other. And it does, and we can kind of reposition it a little bit. And what we want to do is group them both, so select them both holding in Shift. And once you do that, you could do Control-G, and that will group them. And then you just want to align them to the actual artboard, and they are aligned, so that looks good. And I just moved them down one notch. So 1991 is set in place, our first and last name set in place, and our occupation. We're flying, guys. We're doing really good. We're going to do the same thing we did for the outside text, okay? So what we want to do is just duplicate the middle circle here and use that as a text path. So we're doing the same thing here, guys. So edit, copy, and then you want to do paste in front. Once you duplicated that circle, go to your type on a path tool here, and then you want to actually hover over that duplicate copy of the circle that you just made, and you'll see this little wavy line just like you did on the top text. And then you left click, and it's going to actually input that text, and it's going to put lorem ipsum, so it's just going to be default. And then you just start typing something real quick. We can change it later on. Now we need to make some adjustments. So if I go to my selection tool or hit V on my keyboard, I can move this text around the work path that we just created, and I'm going to put it on the top here. And what we want to do is we want to change the text size because it's way too big right now, and we want to keep a nice amount of space on the top and bottom just like we did right here. So we kind of have to eye it and make sure it's the same, or at least similar, so it looks consistent. So just like that. And so we have all this gibberish right here, so we need to actually type out the same text that we put right here, and we put dreaming to be a successful YouTuber. So we want to do dreaming to be a successful on top here. So dreaming to be a successful, and that is way too spaced out, so we can hold an Alt again. You don't need to select it, by the way. So you can hold an Alt, hit the left arrow key, just like that. And as you can see, we put it around the text. And if you want to space it out, you could, just to fill up some more room. It looks like it probably could use it. So let's do the same thing we did for the top. We're going to select the text and then go to edit, copy, and we're going to paste that in front. So the middle line will be hiding at the bottom here like mine is. Yours might be in a different spot, but just basically look for that line, and it controls the font that we just duplicated, okay? And we want to make sure it's in the center of the circle here like this. Once your font looks like this, inside of the circle, it's hugging the inside of the circle, and it's readable. It's not upside down or anything like that. You guys are ready to go. What we need to do now is change not only the baseline shift, but we also need to change the letter spacing so it fits within this bottom rectangle here that has an arc to it. So what we're going to do is go to character again, change that baseline shift real fast. Actually, before we do that, basically delete everything else but dreaming, delete that space at the end too, and then type in YouTuber. So that's already ready to go. Now we can change that baseline shift, just like I was saying. And we don't need to select it, by the way, so unselect it if you're selecting it because it's easier to see. And we just need to make sure it's centered within that box, and it's looking good right there. Now we can select the text again and hold an Alt, go left on our arrow key, and change that letter spacing until it sort of matches with the other letters here. These ones can probably be spaced out even a little bit more. And don't be scared to space things out. It's totally fine, especially if you need to fill up some room. Before I move on, I did notice we have a lot of space right here that's empty, and I don't really like that. So one way we can fix that is just by ungrouping these lines here that we created and basically moving it over a little bit just to create a little bit more room on each side to make it look a little more even, because it did look a little off to me. So that's all you have to do. Just make those small adjustments. You could duplicate it again, transform it, reflect it vertically, and basically do the same process over again. It doesn't take very long, and you make it look that much better. If you made it this far, congratulations. I know this is kind of a long process, but once you get the process down and actually practice it, you guys can do this in literally less than like 10 minutes. That's how fast this stuff really is. So we're actually gonna move on now. We're gonna move on to the centerpiece, and Finally, we're gonna add like these round corners over here. Basically just fine tune things and make it look that much better for the final. And that's really easy to do. And you guys are gonna be really shocked by how easy that is to do. So that's gonna be the fun part. But anyway, we're gonna drag my country here. And I'm from the United States, so you guys can drag your own country into Illustrator and vectorize it, or find a free vector of your country and use it in this design. So I decided to add some lines behind United States because I didn't want to just drag my country and call it done, because it just looks so blank and there's like literally nothing in the center, too much white space for my liking. So what I did to avoid that is I just created some lines in the background, and I'll show you exactly how I did that. I just go to the circle here, the shape tool here, go to the circle, or it's called the ellipse in Illustrator, and you can just hold in shift and drag out a circle. It doesn't need to be that big though, you can drag it down a little bit. And then I just use the line segment tool here, and I drew out some vertical lines, and I just made the stroke I don't want it too thick, but I don't want it too thin either, if that makes sense, because you still have to be able to see them. And I think that's a good stroke width. And then all you have to do is basically duplicate it a bunch of times. We're going to be using the alignment tools to fix the alignment on these, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Once you created enough lines to fill up your circle, all you have to do is select all of them, and then you can actually go to the vertical distribute center, and that will make sure they're all evenly spaced out. And then you can actually do Control G and group them all. And then the next thing I want to do is just change my circle to red. That way I can see what I'm doing here. And we're going to be using the Pathfinder tool. So if you don't see Pathfinder, all you have to do is go up to Window and go to Pathfinder, or Shift Control F9, and that will actually bring up Pathfinder for you. Now I'm just going to drag my circle in these lines here so it's nice and centered. And we can actually center everything just like I showed you guys. So I'm aligning it to selection and just basically centering it. It doesn't really matter, you don't have to center it, but I like to make sure everything looks nice and even. And the circle needs to be in the front, so we can actually select the lines and do Control Shift and the left bracket on our keyboard, and that will send it all the way to the back. Or you can right click, arrange, and send to back. It does the same exact thing. So the next thing I do before we actually exclude the lines from the circle is I just want to select the lines and actually expand those. I should have did that before. So now that those are expanded, all I have to do is select everything, and then I can actually go to this one right here that says crop, and it will make those lines perfect for us. So now you can see the lines are ready to go, and we can drag that in the center of our design. And I'm going to actually align that to my artboard. So once those lines are done, what we can do is just drag the United States in the center and make sure that's all centered too, and figure out the sizing. We don't need it to be too big, but we don't want it to be too small either. Basically keeping it within those lines that we just created is fine. And we can make sure that's centered again. I can make it even a little smaller than that. So that's all set in place. We're basically done now, but as a bonus, what I'm going to do is actually add these rounded corners, and I'll show you exactly how I did that as well. I'm gonna create a new artboard real quick, and we're gonna duplicate it and bring it over here. In order for this to work, we need to expand everything. In order to expand it, it's actually pretty easy. All you have to do is go up to Object, just like we did before, and what you want to do is expand Appearance, and then if you go up to Object again, you'll be able to expand it again, and then you could do Expand Everything, basically. So make sure Stroke, Fill, and Object is checked, click OK, and sometimes you have to do this twice, which is fine. It's already expanded, so we're good. I don't know why, but sometimes Illustrator doesn't expand it perfectly the first time, so you can actually just do it twice, and that will make sure everything's expanded correctly. And then once you expanded it, everything's going to look a little differently, but that's okay. Now what we could do is actually merge everything together by using the merge on Pathfinder here. So now we can start selecting each corner that we want rounded, and we can use the tools Illustrator gives us to round it. So let me show you how that works. So if we select all the corners on this top part right here and the bottom part, and I'm holding in Shift Y select these, okay? And that's so it selects everything at once. Not literally everything, but everything we're selecting. So once all those are selected, you're gonna see these white little circles with a solid circle in the center, really, really tiny up here. And once you see that, you can go to any corner and you'll see a quarter circle appear. And once you see that, all you have to do is drag up, and it will actually make those rounded. So we don't wanna round them too much, because you can go crazy with it, see? But we don't want to do that. We just want to go up a little bit. On the middle parts here, on the middle banner parts, we're actually going to go crazy with this. We're going to make them completely rounded just because I thought it looked really cool in the center here. So we're going to select all corners again of all the things that we want to round. And I'm doing sections, as you can see. Instead of doing it all at once, I'm just doing sections. So I did the outside first, and then I'm doing the inside. Now I'm just going to go to the left corner and drag up. Just look for the upside down smiley face looking icon, And then once you see that, you can drag up and you will round the corners completely. So as you can see, it looks really nice now. It gives it a different feel. Just like that, you guys created your own custom badge using Illustrator. It's pretty easy, right? All you have to do is use those custom shapes, use those strokes, and lay down some text to put it all together and make a really cool badge design. And I hope I simplified it enough for you guys. And if you guys like this tutorial, please hit that thumbs up button. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. And if you want to see it colored, let me know and I might do a tutorial on that. But that's it for this video, guys. As always, follow me on Instagram at CharleyPangus. I'm always on there. You guys can ask me questions, follow me, say hi, whatever it is you want to do. You guys rock. I'll see you in the next video.